Good evening and welcome to my State of Mind here on WPRI.com, the online version in lieu of new shows at 7:30 on MyRI TV and Fox Province at midnight. Continue to run repeats until further notice. But let me offer you a few thoughts about today's developments. Governor Raimondo had a presentation today where she talked about the blue line and the red line. The red line representing a peak of cases in the hospital, beds necessary to the tune of over 4,000, which is going to put way too much pressure on our hospitalization system. And then the blue line, which is a projection through May 3rd, at peaking at about just over a couple of thousand beds, which would tuck in under the formidable and widespread capability of our entire hospital system without using the auxiliary facilities that the governor has put together at the Convention Center, Citizens Bank, and the third site, right? So we have 1,000 beds that we're looking at. The third site's the Lowe's in Quonset. See, I knew I'd get that. We ad-lib everything here, you know that. But those sites are on the ready and should be available. But it'd be great if we didn't need them, at least for this go-round. The question is, what is it going to take for us to keep that curve that way through a peak of the curve, a flat peak of the curve for May 3rd? I guess it's more of the same, which means that minimally at least 2 or 3 more weeks of the shelter-in-place type of social distancing strategies that have really suppressed our lives, but that we have to continue to keep doing. Doing it all the way through May might result in even half that number. So the models are the models, and the models are all contingent on our behavior, right? The question is, what is our threshold for this? While some would make speeches that, in tougher times in America, World War II, the Great Depression, the flu of 1918, that Americans easily came together and battled what they needed to battle without complaining. Well, the difference is that we can't even connect with each other right now. Lest the flu challenge in 1918, and even their society was different than ours. There's a whole different reorientation and calibration going on here. And the economy is so fast and so forceful that once everyone bows out of it, the devastation could be enormous, and a devastating economy certainly has its own health impacts. So, for instance, domestic violence numbers reportedly are through the roof, and that's all due to the pressure of social distancing and staying at home to folks who aren't getting along very well. By the way, on that front, take a deep breath, please. Conflict can be resolved. Take a walk. It's springtime. But in the meantime, we have to determine for ourselves how much patience we have for this. And that is TBD, to be determined. We'll see how that model moves. But what most likely is going to happen is that we're going to probably not see a lot of change over the next month. And we've got to be mentally prepared for that. On a national front, the White House put out a directive, kind of a guide, really, to the states on how to open back up again. And while the president last week said the whole decision to open up was right in here, the biggest decision he'd ever have to make, it seems like a week's time and a lot of pressure has borne out that, he doesn't have the total authority. Even some Republicans try to explain to him this thing called the Constitution and the limits of executive power. What the White House has done now is give a kind of a script to the states for how they can reopen, which of course is a slow progressive thing, not a light switch by any stretch. Included in phase 1, 3 phases they put out, but included in phase 1 is the idea that schools that are closed ought to remain that way through the balance of the school year, which might be a lot of yikes for teachers and students and parents alike out there. And number 2, that the hospitals, we've been talking a lot about hospitals, right? That the hospitals return to pre-crisis condition. Do the math and the calendar on that. That feels like it's into the summer. A lot of other nuances. Bars should not open in this phase one time, but maybe gyms can if there's social distancing. It's very much a crawl before you walk, before you run scenario. Every day we'll take a look at it and comment on it. Speaking of every day, in the last couple of days I've been trying to bang home the idea that garden centers and farm stands, which are listed as essential businesses in Massachusetts, be allowed to open here in Rhode Island. We are pounding away at the governor's office on that by any means we can. Lieutenant Governor is all on board to trying to get this done, and reportedly DEM is reviewing it, according to a response to a question we had on the radio side to the governor today. I don't think it's that complicated. There are a lot of conversations and decisions that the governor and the administration have to make that are very complicated. This one doesn't seem to be one. If it's essential in Massachusetts that those kinds of businesses are open and drive less traffic to the box stores which are open, then it makes perfect sense for us to do the same here. Same air, same virus, same kinds of businesses. Sometimes you got to just say, you know what, that's simple. And I hope that she will do that. Alrighty, that's our thought for this evening on our state of mind. Again, we'll be back to normal shows as soon as we can get there. But in the meantime, check us out in the early evening here at 8 o'clock on WPRI.com. Talk to you tomorrow at 3 on WPRO until 6, of course, every afternoon. Thank you so much for checking in. Don't forget to wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Get yourself a cool bandana. And keep those who need it, and there are plenty of them, in our prayers. Good night.